So during that time, of course, like you say, coming from Kansas City, Missouri, it's not much industry. We had at that time, Vel Bacardi was the talk of the town. He had signed with Def America with Rick Rubin. And he was the first rapper from Kansas City I saw on UMTV Raps. So that made it real. It was like, oh shit, this can happen. You know what I mean? He's from right down the street. He's from 39. He's from 39th Street. I'm from the 4 block, but he right up the street. So to see Vel Bacardi on TV, that made it real. Then, of course, we had Tech Nine. He was already doing his thing. And then we had a group called Pure Dope. That was a local group. But I'm saying all this to say, with the exception of Velvet Cardi at that time, everybody was just local.
Yeah, yeah.
At 16, 17 years old, that wasn't appealing to me. Because I'm, at that time, I'm studying. I'm watching TV. I'm reading all the magazines. I'm studying. I'm reading all the credits and the CDs and the cassettes. I'm really, into this. And so I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to be where they are. You know what I'm saying? Not to take away from the people that aspired to be local, but that just wasn't my goal. So we recorded a bunch of demos. And so what I ended up doing was I used to send tapes to the majors. So I get the addresses off the back of the CD. I was sending shit to Jive, Arista, MCA, Electra, all of that shit, right? And they would send it back with a stamp that said, we don't accept unsolicited, we don't accept unsolicited material. I didn't know what the hell that meant. I was like, oh damn, they ain't even open it. They ain't fucking with us. Like, I just took action. So something clicked in me that was like, well, shit, because I was a big fan of West Coast and Southern hip hop. So I'm looking at Black Market, I'm looking at Rap a Lot, I'm looking at all of these labels. I didn't have the terminology independent, but they just seemed as if they were reachable. And so I said, shit, let me start sending some shit to these smaller labels. Then I started at least being able to get someone on the phone. So I was like, okay, let me focus on that. So at the time, there was a third, we were a duo, but there was a person named Dank Nitty that used to rap with us. People used to say, he sounds like Master P. At the time, I didn't know who Master P was. I never heard of him. And so I would hear that. They'd be like, yeah, the dude on there, y'all other dudes sound like Master P. So finally, I go get Ghetto's Trying to Kill Me, which is the album he had out at the time. So I'm like, okay, I fuck with this. This is cool. And so, of course, I look on the back like, oh, shit, it's a label too? Oh, he got an address and a phone number? Shit, I'm on that. So, this is, and I'm going to tell y'all, this is why I have little patience for the excuses that artists give nowadays, because I come from an era where it was 1,000% more difficult. You know what I mean?
You lucky. I had my finger on the trigger too. I was waiting for it. I was like, nigga about to go. Let's wait for it, nigga.
Hey, real talk. And
Go quick with it.
Hey, so I end up, because back then, nobody told me what an electronic press kit was or a press kit. I didn't even know that. But common sense, again, I'm going all off of a dream, hustle, and common sense. Something told me, okay, they need to know who we are. So I used to handwrite the bios. Then I said, okay, well, I guess they need to know what we look like. So we go to 1 hour photo. We had the little cheap cameras you get, and we take our, we be in our rap poses and shit. And I put that in there. And then the recorded demo tape with a list of the songs, whole songs, right? Yeah. This was a press kit. I didn't know that, right? But this is what common sense was telling me to do. So I was relentless. I was persistent. Sometimes I was send 5, 6, 7 tapes to the same people. I was calling until you gave me a definitive no. And if you gave me a definitive no, then the next batch of songs we did, I was sending that to you. Say, okay, well, what you think about this? You know what I mean? So at the time, Bone Thugs and Harmony had just came out. We had a similar style to Bone Thugs and Harmony. So in my 17-year-old mind, I don't know why trying to go to where they are sounded similar to them seemed right. But at the time it did, because it signaled to me that, oh, they fucking with this kind of shit. So, so I was on Ruthless. And so I end up making contact and establishing rapport with a lady named Cassandra Ware. Shout out to Cassandra Ware. I've never met her in person, but she was so gracious with me when I would call. And I would call all the time. Yeah, the easy get the tape. It's easy there. It's easy there. It got to the point where when I would call, she'd be like, "Hello, Courtney. How are you today?" You know, and she'd be like, "No, Eric is not here." You know what I mean? He hasn't got it yet. So I say about November or so, 94, she was like, "Yeah, Eric, he got the tape." I'm like, "Oh shit, nigga, we finna go to Ruthless. This nigga is up. It's woo, woo, woo." Didn't hear nothing. Come March, Easy dies.
Damn.
Like, damn. Okay. So I'm back to the drawing board. But by this time, I have become a Master P fan, right? So
wait, before you continue, real quick, how long did the outreach from you to Ruthless? Like 6 months, a year? How long was you building that relationship?
if I had to be honest, bro, that shit felt like the whole year, bro.
Oh,
Yeah, because things move
Just
slow.
like, yo,
Things
I'm
move
paying
slow.
the
They move
Yeah,
slow.
hell yeah.
So
Well, and again, remember at that time, email is not out. It's not
No,
prevalent at
that's
that time,
No.
right? Nothing is, you know, so
No.
everything is really like mail and a
Mail.
house and a
Mail.
house. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. Dude,
Yeah.
I'm sending tapes that's taking 6-7 days to get there.
Right. It take a
There's
week
no-
to get there.
There's no
Right.
tracking. There's no
Right.
fucking tracking number. It's like I'm calling like, did you even get it? You know what I mean?
And knowing you just nailed that shit yesterday.
Yeah. You know, I was on a mission, bro. I was relentless. I was on a mission.
I love
And
that.
so in interim that, I become a fan of Master P, and 99 Ways to Die comes out, which was one of my favorite Master P albums. So I'm like, oh yeah, so I'm on him for whatever reason. I locked in on him.
Right.
And what it was is P had a voicemail. And so I made it my business. I had a big brick phone, the cell phone, the brick one. I had that one back then, like 35 cents a minute. So I'm calling, I'm filling his voicemail up on purpose so nobody else can leave voicemails. So he got to hear my voice.
That's hustle, bro.
I love that. Yo, I love that shit though.
Yeah,
Nah,
I
love that shit,
too, bro.
Courtney. I love
Man,
that
I'm
shit. Go ahead.
17, 18 years old doing this shit. So finally, I guess I got on his fucking nerves. I got on. He said, "This motherfucker calling me like this, he got to be serious." So he tells, if the story proves true, because Servon told me, I think he tells Mr. Servon to go get the tape. He gets the tape. Now, mind you, I didn't send probably about 10 of them by then. You know, he listens to it and he's like, "Oh, okay." So as I told you, I'm living with my dad at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm at home. I got the home number and the cell phone number on there, right? But I think by the time he called, I think the cell was off because I had paid the bill. It was too high. So it was off. You know what I mean?
Hate it.
So he calls the house phone, and I just so happen to be there by myself. I get up, I go. So he said, "Yeah, can I speak to Court?" It was a voice I didn't recognize, so I thought it was calling for my dad because my dad's name is Courtney too.
Oh,
So
God.
yeah, so I
Gotcha.
was like, he ain't here, and so he was like, "All right," he was like, "Well, shit, tell him P called." So I was like, P. I said, P who? I said, P who? He was like,
Master P, like, yeah.
I was like, nah, this me. And he was like, so P started laughing. He was like, "Niggas, you on the run? You dodging somebody or something?" You know, and I was like, nah. I was like, man, my dad named Courtney too. Like, this really. He was like, "Yeah, I got your tape." Woo, woo, woo.
Yeah.
Like, damn. So it went from there. And I just remember him saying, he was like, "I'm doing a compilation called Down South Hustlers. You know, I'm gonna have 8 Ball, MJG, UGK, and you know, at the time, 8 Ball, MJG, and UGK were super huge, especially in my
them dudes, and I love them to this day.
That's right.
I love 8-Ball MJG to this day.
This day, and so
Classics.
that really got me excited. I was like, wow, hell yeah. And so he was like, all right. He was like, man, I'm gonna bring y'all out here. And this is at this time he was still in the Bay Area. He was in Oakland, and so we didn't go out to Oakland until about it was a few months. But the trip was P used to call me randomly. He would just call and we would just chop it up and talk. We would talk for an hour, you know what I mean? And I would tell my friends that and they wouldn't believe me. They'd be like, so he just called you? I'd be like, yeah. So, but of course, as I got to know P, I understood what he was doing. He was really trying to see where I was with it, where my head was.
Your mom was at, yeah.
Yeah, if I was going to even be something worth, getting involved with, you know what I mean? So he sent tickets back then, again, mailing. He mailed the tickets to the house, Southwest tickets, you know what I'm saying? And so then we go to Oakland. And so I remember that being the first time that we had ever been in a real studio. Cause see, this is why I say about nowadays. Back then, studio time, we talking about reel to reel 2-inch. You talking about Elise's ADAT, Tascam, ADAT studio time, $100, $150, $200 an hour.
Easy.
You know what I mean?
Nice.
So we had been in kind of these makeshift, when the nigga might had a 4-track recorder, or some shit like that. So we was really trying to grind and get it. And so I remember he put us in the studio with Beats by the Pound and K. Lou. And we felt like we was with Dr. Dre. It was the first time we was in a real studio. And then we ended up recording the song R.I.P., which was on me, Silk the Shocker, my partner Cisco, and Master P for Down South Hustlers. And so we recorded an album with No Limit called 100% Game. You can see our picture on the inside of Down South Hustlers, but it never came out.
Oh,
Never came out.
I mean, but the experience of that can change your life all the way. Now, you are already an animal. The concepts that you're thinking about at 17, like grown men don't think about that. You understand what I'm saying? The hustle and the persistence that you're showing at 17. Grown-ups are not thinking about that. So you go to this studio and you see somebody that technically is in the industry, one of the highest, best independent ones to ever do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, let me introduce you to what this thing looks like for real. It's the work ethic behind it. It's seeing what the organization of putting an album together actually looks like, from soup to nuts, right? From the engineer to the production and just everything now, right? Understanding. He's giving you an invaluable lesson in the business of making music, the business part. Now, how much? Remember, back in that day, 100 to 200 an hour for a studio session. Average 17-year-old could not afford $200 for 1 hour. Right? And some of these sessions go.
That's a fact.
You better have your verse before you get here.
That's right. You better
have your verse before you get in the
building. Come on. Hey, listen.
Real or real, you know how them shits used to record. You gotta get that shit right
all this shit all over. All this shit that they do now, right? Get in the studio and write your rap. Hell no.
Nah.
Nigga, we had our shit rehearsed, ready to go. When you go in there, you go. Like, cause the time is ticking. So, but this was the thing. I was just talking with Big Boz. Boz is my brother. That's P's best friend. The light-skinned cat that's always with him. When I was in New Orleans, we were talking. And he asked me, he said, man, how come y'all album, what happened with that? And he told, so it comes back to integrity and just, how people won't sell themselves. So what happened was at the time, so it was me and my partner, Cisco, right? We're 17, 18 years old. We don't know the business. We had a manager at the time who was actually from New Jersey. He was about 10 years older than us. He didn't know shit for real, but he knew more than us. You know what I mean? So what you have is so the manager, I ain't gonna lie, me and him never really clicked for real, but him and my partner clicked. Well, what happened was me and P clicked, and him and my partner never talked. So when we got to California, me and P like old friends. They're meeting for the first time. They had never even spoke because I was the point of contact. So, but we had difference of personalities. So basically what happened was P didn't like my partner and my partner didn't like P. The manager, he sided with my partner.
And you and the manager didn't really get along. I see it already.
Exactly. So what happened was, I never forget it. P came and got me one time and he was like, come roll with me. So basically, in a nutshell, he was like, I'm fucking with you, but the rest of that shit, I'm not fucking with. You know what I mean? And he basically was like, man, you know, you need to do your own thing. You just come, you know, but the integrity in me, I couldn't do that. Cause I'm like, I came with him, even though I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. And I do want this opportunity, but I got to be able to look at myself. I came with him. I kind of got to leave with him. You know what I'm saying? So what happened was the album didn't come out, but we go back to Kansas City. But see, now I'm super motivated because I've seen something different. I've been next to it. And this is right before Ice Cream Man dropped. So, you know, by the time I get back to Kansas City, now he blowing up.